the 5 shocking archaeological discoveries in unexpected locations that left scientists speechless. Hello everyone, welcome back to Ancient History, the place where we uncover the untold mysteries of the past together. My friends, human history has never stopped astonishing us. Every time a shovel strikes the earth, archaeologists seem to open a secret door, guiding us back to distant eras where stories appear to have been forgotten by time. What's truly remarkable is that these discoveries don't always emerge in the heritage-rich lands we often imagine. Sometimes, hidden deep in barren deserts or beneath the dark depths of the ocean, lie relics that leave the entire research community stunned. From perfectly preserved skeletons revealing mysterious ancient rituals to monumental structures that seemed impossible to build with the technology of their age, each finding forces modern science to raise countless questions. Every archaeological discovery is more than just a fragment of the past. It is a reminder that we still know so little about humanity's long journey of evolution. Beneath layers of soil and stone, behind every ancient artifact, lies the story of life, beliefs, and unsolved mysteries. So, what are the most shocking discoveries hidden in places no one could have ever imagined? Right now, let's step back in time together and explore 5 archaeological mysteries that left researchers in absolute awe. Let's go! The 2300-year-old Sacrificial tomb in Peru reveals a gruesome truth. Recently in Peru, scientists excavated a series of unusual tombs containing more than 10 skeletons dating back about 2,300 years. The chilling part is that many of these remains show clear signs of ritual sacrifice. The tomb was discovered near the Puemape temple complex, located on the northwestern coast of Peru, a region well known for its archaeological sites connected to prehistoric Andean cultures. According to the research team, the temple itself is about 3,000 years old, but the tombs belong to a later period, roughly between 400 and 200 BC. This has led scientists to hypothesize that the temple may have been abandoned before the sacrifices took place, and that the tombs themselves serve as evidence of a mysterious religious ritual. What's most haunting is the way these bodies were buried. Professor Henry Tantaleon, an archaeology lecturer at the National University of San Marcos and head of the excavation, described, "The way they were placed in the tomb is truly unusual." He explained that the bodies were laid face down, a burial style rarely seen in the prehistoric Andes. Typically, ancient cultures buried their dead lying on their backs or in a seated fetal position, but here it was the opposite, suggesting a very deliberate intent. Even more disturbing, many skeletons showed signs of having their hands tied behind their backs, ropes looped around their necks, and in some cases, fractured skulls. These details convinced the research team that the individuals were likely sacrificed in a ritual rather than dying of natural causes. Adding to the horror, none of the bodies were buried with offerings or grave goods, something that was extremely common in ancient cultures. This absence led archaeologists to believe that these people were nothing more than living offerings presented to the gods, stripped of any honor typically given in conventional burials. Professor Tantaleon emphasized that the lack of burial items strongly reinforces the theory. They were sacrificial offerings to this ancient sanctuary. In other words, their existence in these tombs was tied solely to a ritual purpose, not to memorialize loved ones or honor community leaders. On a broader level, these discoveries highlight not only the practice of sacrifice, but also the deep connection between religion and power in ancient civilizations. Large-scale sacrificial rituals required authority, collective belief, and strict social control. This shows that the Puemape temple was more than just an architectural structure. It was once a religious center where human lives were surrendered in exchange for divine favor. Interestingly, although the site was first uncovered in 2024, excavations are still continuing in 2025. This gives hope that future discoveries may provide more clues about the people who were sacrificed, as well as the mysterious culture that once thrived in this region. Just imagine, more than 2,000 years ago, at the sacred Puemape temple, these individuals may have been forced to kneel, hands bound, before being offered as living sacrifices to a god whose name we may never know. Within that ritual space, their lives ended, and their bodies were buried face down, forever bound to silence and secrecy. This is clearly not just an ordinary archaeological story. It is a stark reminder that behind the grandeur of ancient civilizations lay the shadows of sacrifice. These skeletons are not merely physical remains. they are living testimony to a belief system where people were willing or compelled to give up their very lives in the search for supernatural protection. The young warrior and clues of Eastern Slavic power in a tomb in Poland. Throughout human history, there have been archaeological discoveries so strange and mysterious that every detail sends chills down our spine. One such case is the ancient tomb discovered near the village of Bodzia, northwest of Warsaw, Poland, during a survey for highway construction. At first, it seemed like an ordinary survey, but no one expected it would open a doorway to secrets buried for over 1,000 years. Here, archaeologists uncovered an entire cemetery dating back to the late 10th and early 11th centuries. Among the many graves, one particular tomb left researchers stunned. Inside, they found the skeleton of a young warrior, only about 20 years old, yet his bones carried the marks of a violent death. A broken jaw, a crushed skull, evidence that he had been brutally killed. But the mystery didn't end there. Lying right next to him was the skeleton of a young woman, also around 20 years old, who had suffered the same cruel fate. What was their relationship? Were they lovers, a married couple, or was she simply an unfortunate witness caught in a struggle for power? The answer remains unknown. Andrzej Buko, director of the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnology at the Polish Academy of Sciences, confirmed that the grave goods found with the warrior were far from ordinary. A silver amulet engraved with an eagle with outstretched wings, an emblem that remains a mystery even today, was placed beside him. In addition, a silver necklace, rock crystal, and carnelian beads crafted in the style of ancient Slavic jewelry were uncovered, all proving the young man's wealth and high status. But the most striking item was a bronze belt with intricate designs, as if declaring that its owner had once been a close ally, or perhaps even a family member of Świętopolk, the powerful prince of the Kievan Rus dynasty in Poland. Świętopolk was known as an ambitious and ruthless figure. He ascended the throne in the early 11th century, and to secure his power, did not hesitate to murder his own brothers. Against this backdrop, the young warrior buried at Bodzia could very well have been one of his trusted supporters, or possibly even his son. If this theory is correct, then his violent death makes the story even more dramatic, tying it to the conspiracies and tragedies of the Eastern Slavic royal court. Even more intriguing, archaeologists also found numerous pieces of women's jewelry from medieval Eastern Europe in the cemetery. This sparked speculation that the men buried there might have been Viking warriors, who played an important role in Eastern European society at the time. Remember, during this period, Vikings were not only dominant at sea, but also served as elite guards protecting Byzantine emperors in Constantinople. So, their presence as bodyguards for Slavic princes was not unusual. Yet the biggest question remains unanswered. Why did a young warrior of such high status and power meet such a brutal end? Was it the result of a violent struggle for the throne within the royal family? Or was it simply an act of bloody revenge? And who was the young woman buried with him? What role did she play in this tragic story? To this day, all of it remains speculation. Scientists have yet to uncover a final answer, and that very uncertainty has made the Bodzia tomb one of the most fascinating archaeological mysteries in Europe. It is not just a tale of a violent death, but also a reflection of a turbulent chapter in history, where power, greed, and loyalty intertwine to create tragedies buried beneath the soil for centuries. The 2,000-year-old treasure in a fortress, ravaged by Roman forces. Some treasures are more than just gold and jewels. They are living testimony to human tragedy, hope, and despair throughout history. That is exactly the case with two treasures unearthed in an ancient fortress in the town of Artesian in Crimea, once part of the Bosporan kingdom. These treasures, buried about 2,000 years ago, not only reveal the wealth of the people who lived there, but also tell the sorrowful story of their struggle against the brutal Roman invasion. According to a scientific report published in the journal Ancient Civilizations from Scythia to Siberia, researchers discovered more than 200 ancient coins, mostly made of bronze, along with exquisite jewelry crafted from gold, silver, and bronze, as well as rare glass vessels. All of these artifacts were found within the ruins of the Artesian fortress, a settlement covering about 3.2 acres, complete with its own cemetery, which was once a vital part of the Bosporan kingdom. The historical backdrop was turbulent. The Bosporan kingdom was torn apart by civil war between two brothers, Mithridates VIII, who sought to break free from Roman control, and Caudas I, who who sided with the powerful empire that was expanding across Europe. This conflict was not merely a family feud, it would determine the fate of an entire kingdom. Ultimately, Rome dispatched its army to support Sacrificial, placing him on the throne while massacring the lands loyal to Mithridates, including Artesian. In desperation, the townspeople gathered inside the fortress, hoping to resist the advancing Romans. But as Professor Nikolai Vinokurov from Moscow State Pedagogical University explained, they must have known tragedy was inevitable. He suggested that the buried treasures were not simply wealth hidden from looters, but may have been part of a funerary ritual. In other words, the people of Artesian knew death was near, and burying the treasures was their way of affirming their faith and leaving a final message for future generations. The siege was fierce, and in AD 45, the Artesian fortress finally fell under Roman power. What makes the discovery especially intriguing is that each treasure hoard contained exactly 55 coins minted by Mithridates VIII. This could be a coincidence, or it might have been equal sums deliberately set aside by his supporters to pay for burial rites. While the true meaning remains uncertain, the number adds another layer of mystery to how these people prepared for their final moments. Another striking detail is the clear Greek cultural influence seen in the artifacts. Despite being a diverse community, the people of Artesian preserved Greek traditions and artistic styles. This was no surprise, since Greek colonists had settled along the Black Sea centuries earlier, marrying locals and blending cultures. That influence remained deeply rooted, even though Artesian was nearly 620 miles away from mainland Greece. For example, among the treasures was a silver brooch engraved with Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, as well as gold rings set with gemstones, carved with the images of Nemesis, the goddess of retribution, and Tyche, the goddess of fortune. These finds reveal not just material wealth, but also deep spiritual meaning, as the people of Artesian placed their final hopes and faith in the gods during their last hours. Excavations of the burned remains of the settlement revealed even more evidence of Greek-style living, from architecture to daily customs, showing that the community embraced Hellenic traditions. But all of this was destroyed when Roman soldiers set the settlement ablaze, leaving behind only ruins and the buried treasures. Later, Prehistoric, installed by Rome as king, rebuilt the area. Yet the treasures of Artesian remained untouched beneath the ground for nearly 2 millennia, until archaeologists finally uncovered them. Today, these two treasures stand not only as proof of the wealth of a once thriving community, but also as witnesses to a tragic moment in history, a desperate stand against the unstoppable power of Rome. They tell the story of a people who, knowing death was inevitable, chose to preserve their traditions, their faith, and their final measure of pride. Impressive, isn't it? A half-million-year-old treasure of an extinct human species. If one day you happen to stumble upon some rough flint fragments and a few fossilized bones, would you ever imagine that they were once vivid proof of the existence of another human species that lived nearly 500,000 years ago? That is exactly the astonishing story of Tunel Wielkie Cave in Poland. In 2018, during what seemed like a routine excavation, archaeologists uncovered a strange collection of artifacts, including about 40 pieces of flint and countless animal bones. At first, all of them were thought to be around 40,000 years old, still within the period when our species, Homo sapiens, already existed. But then, a groundbreaking discovery completely overturned that assumption. Led by Dr. Małgorzata Kot from the Faculty of Archaeology at the University of Warsaw, the research team reanalyzed the entire site. The results shocked the scientific community. The flint tools and animal remains in the cave actually dated back between 440,000 and 550,000 years. That staggering number pushed us far back into a distant past when modern humans had not yet appeared on Earth. What does this mean? First, the entire archaeological treasure at Tunel Wielkie could not have belonged to Homo sapiens, since we only emerged a little over 300,000 years ago. The hand axes, flint flakes, and food-preparing tools must have been created by another human species, ancient inhabitants long extinct. The leading candidate scientists point to is Homo heidelbergensis. This early ancestor shared an evolutionary branch with both us and the Neanderthals in Europe. Their presence has been dated between 600,000 and 400,000 years ago, almost perfectly matching the timeline revealed at Tunel Wielkie. Second, the collection of animal bones found alongside the flint tools opened an entirely new perspective. Within the ancient sediment layers, researchers discovered the remains of animals that are now extinct, from ancient wolves and cave bears to the mighty cave lion. Most of these bones showed no signs of being hunted or processed by humans. This suggests that they were likely unwilling neighbors of the ancient people, sharing the area around the cave before being buried together by natural events in the same layer of rock and soil. Even so, their presence helped paint a vivid ecological picture of that era, a wild Europe where humans and giant beasts coexisted. Most importantly, this discovery has become the oldest archaeological evidence of human presence ever recorded in Poland. Until now, it was believed that human traces only appeared there much later. But the flint tools from Tunel Wilki have rewritten history. They prove that hundreds of thousands of years ago, our distant ancestors, or more precisely, another human species, already lived, hunted, and crafted tools in this very place. Imagine this. 500,000 years ago, inside the darkness of Tunel Wilki Cave, a group of Homo heidelbergensis were lighting a fire, sharpening flint tools to prepare their meal. Outside, the roar of a cave lion echoed from afar, while deep inside the cave, animal bones slowly piled up over the years. All of it would eventually be buried by time, only to be rediscovered today by the descendants of another human species, who now call it a treasure. The fascination here lies not only in its 500,000-year age, but also in the mystery of its true owners. While Homo heidelbergensis is the strongest candidate, scientists still cannot state it with absolute certainty. One thing is sure, it was not Homo sapiens. And that very uncertainty casts a mysterious veil over Tunel Wilki, making it one of the most intriguing and significant archaeological discoveries in Europe today. You see, every time a new archaeological site is unearthed, it's like uncovering another missing piece of humanity's grand puzzle. And the piece from Tunel Wilki is perhaps one of the oldest, revealing that long before Homo sapiens were born, another human species lived, hunted, and left behind an invaluable treasure. So here's the question. If this was just one cave discovered by chance, how many more Tunel Wilkis are still buried somewhere underground, holding secrets no human has ever known? And if one day we uncover more clues, will we finally be able to say with certainty which human species truly authored this 500,000-year-old treasure? It's hard to say, but with modern technology advancing as it is today, I believe the experts will eventually find the answer. The 5,000-year-old Jade Dragon in an ancient Chinese tomb. In October 2024, researchers in China unearthed a strange treasure inside a tomb dating back 5,000 years. That artifact was a jade dragon, measuring about 6.2 inches long and 3.7 inches wide. It was found in a round tomb with a square altar placed directly to the south, a detail that added a sense of solemnity and emphasized its ceremonial nature. Alongside the jade dragon, archaeologists also uncovered human remains and a wide variety of pottery, ranging from cups and bowls to vessels with uniquely tripod-like shapes. This discovery site lies in Chifeng City, in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region of China, and has been dated to between 5,000 and 5,100 years ago, corresponding to the Hongshan culture, a flourishing Neolithic culture that once thrived in this area. The Hongshan people were skilled farmers who built large settlements with impressive structures and created remarkably intricate artifacts, defying the common assumption that the Stone Age was only about crude tools. That's why the newly unearthed Jade Dragon was immediately regarded as one of the most striking examples of their artistry and craftsmanship. Chinese researchers have even suggested that it might be the largest and most exquisite jade dragon ever discovered from the Hongshan culture. However, not everyone in academia fully agrees. Professor Gideon Shelok-Lavi, an East Asian studies expert at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, argued that while the discovery is highly valuable, it is not unique. Similar artifacts, in both form and size, have been found in other Hongshan tombs in the past. This raises an important question. Should all such artifacts really be called jade dragons? In fact, archaeologists have yet to confirm whether these shapes truly represent dragons as we imagine them today. Shelok-Lavi emphasized that calling them dragons may reflect a modern interpretation, imposing today's concepts onto a culture that lived 5,000 years ago. During the Neolithic era, we simply cannot be certain of the symbolic meaning the Hongshan people intended. Perhaps the figure was a sacred animal, a religious symbol, or simply an artwork made for its beauty. What makes this find even more fascinating is that the excavation site in Chifeng, was not just an ordinary tomb. Its layout, with the altar, stratified artifacts, and overall structure, suggests that it also served a ceremonial purpose. This echoes earlier discoveries at another Hongshan site called Niu Heliang, where ritual complexes were also unearthed. You see, human history is like a book whose pages have never been fully turned. The more we explore, the more we realize that things once thought to be certain are constantly challenged by unexpected discoveries. From mysterious tombs to buried treasures and unbelievable structures, these findings don't just tell stories of the past, they also leave us with countless unanswered questions. Who knows, maybe right beneath the ground you're standing on, there's an ancient secret thousands of years old waiting to be uncovered. What do you think about that? Or which discovery impressed you the most? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any other fascinating discoveries. For now, goodbye, and I'll see you next time.